Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Heroes Lounge Rare Cup. I'm your host today, Karis, and joining me for the first matches today is Yosh.
Pico, hello guys. Today's roster of teams is very stacked, and the groups have provided a very nice surprise for us as Division 7 has absolutely shown up. All four Pool 3 teams are in the playoffs, and we will cast two of them, starting with our first match, Kwak-A-Mole versus Unleashed. The teams have already played in the regular season, and that was a 2-0 victory for Unleashed. But Kwak-A-Mole has stepped up a lot since then, including sweeping their group to take first place on a Thursday, playing all three matches in one evening.
Wow, that's an incredible feat actually, to play all their matches on one day and win them all, is that right?
Yes, I believe out of the 7 games that they have played, they have only dropped one of them versus the eventual second place finisher in Group A.
Okay, so that's an incredible performance. So, would you say that they're therefore the favourites coming into today's first quarterfinal?
Well, I'll be honest, it is a little bit hard to predict because, in my opinion, Group A was probably one of the easier groups to get out of. Winning 3 games in a row is still a great feat, and it will be a lot. And it tests a very important thing required of the teams to play in the playoff stage, as in endurance. You will be playing a lot of games in a row. But first, you need to get over the first hurdle, and Unleashed have proved to be a very strong team to beat, having only one loss in the regular season to Just Cause. Unfortunately, in the group stage of the Cup, they did not do as well, dropping their series versus Forum and Eire 2-1. I believe there was a technical difficulty on the side of Unleashed, forcing them to play Game 3 with a sub, which was quite unfortunate, but in the end, it is the only hurdle that stopped the groups from being a complete sweep from Pool 3 teams, because Unleashed are the only team that did not take first place out of the pool.
Oh, really? So yeah, it should be an interesting day then. In fact, if we take a look at the bracket for today, we can see how today's 8 teams line up. The top 2 teams from each of the 4 groups. So as you see there, Kwak-A-Mole versus Unleashed, that's the first match we've got coming up today. And then over on our Lounge 2 channel, we have Facepalm Tacticians versus Impanic. Later here, we'll have Just Cause versus Beehive, which should also be a very spicy match, would you say, Yosh?
Yeah, that is one of the matches that people call the decider of the entire tournament. Those teams have achieved first place in Division 6 and first place in Division 7, with Just Cause being the only team in launch this season to get all 10 wins in the regular season. Also sweeping their group, Beehive have lost a game to Facepalm Tacticians, which drops them to a second position in the group and made it a very, very interesting quarterfinal. But let not the bracket fool you. All of the teams who are showing up here today will be very interesting to look at. And the fact that you have missed Farum and Eire versus Britwin is also a little bit of a mistake, because all of the matches today are very, very interesting. At least for me, I would be happy with casting either one of them. But Kwak-A-Mole versus Unleashed is spicy as it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. These are going to be, I think, potentially some really great series today. And as you point out, Yosh, you'll be here casting quite a few of them. So you're casting 2 of these quarterfinals, and then both of the semifinals. Is that right?
Yes, I do believe that is correct. And, this Rare Cup is just too great to stop casting, but unfortunately, that is everything that I was allowed to get my hands on for today.
Well, I'm sure you'll have plenty of fun in the process. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the Rare Cup isn't all that's going on this weekend in terms of Heroes Lounge. Tomorrow, we have a Heroes Lounge Epic Cup, which is teams from Divisions 4 and 5, and that will be kicking off at the same time tomorrow on this channel. with hosting by Samu. And next weekend, of course, we'll have the Heroes Lounge Legendary Cup and the pinnacle of Heroes Lounge, the Mythic Championship. But I should also mention, on Saturday the 8th of August, Heroes Lounge will be hosting a charity stream, raising money for the Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust and Gendered Intelligence. And there'll be a tournament you can sign up for to get involved with that. It's just for fun, but it helps raise money for those charities. So definitely check that out. There's more information about that on the Heroes Lounge Discord, and there's still time to sign up. So back for today, Yosh. I mean, I was involved with the Heroes Lounge draw show, and one of the things that was interesting there is we had a poll on who viewers thought would win the Heroes Lounge Rare Cup, and in that poll, I think Just Cause came out on top with 16.9% of the vote, despite being a Division 7 team. So they are looking like the viewer favourites so far in terms of who people think will win. But then Beehive, as you pointed out, was kind of second in that poll. So as you pointed out, that second quarterfinal, which we've got coming up in just over an hour probably on this channel, that's going to be really one of the big titans in this group, in this playoff.
Yep, indeed. And I'll be honest, usually that is not just a measure of which team do people consider to be strong, but a measure of which team do people support. And Just Cause have quite a bunch of friends on their journey. Beehive might be the strongest team, potentially, but GC definitely have the fan base of their own. I would also like to mention that Oopsie Daisy and Stray Dogs, both teams from Pool 1, not acquiring much of the vote, and the fan base was correct on this one because they both failed, unfortunately, to make it out of the group. However, Froome and Air, with a considerable share of the vote, taking their place in the playoffs, and we will see them later on the second channel. Kwak-A-Mole and Unleashed, both teams not doing swimmingly in the vote, but Kwak-A-Mole, as I've already mentioned, surprising, subverting any expectations, sweeping the group in one evening, and Unleashed with a decent showing after a decent showing in the Swiss stage.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of factors here. I think this should be really interesting, in particular this first match. I think that's something I'm in particular looking forward to. As you mentioned, Just Cause and Beehive definitely going to be very spicy as well. Like we mentioned over on Lounge 2, we've got Facepalm Tacticians versus In Panic starting up. I mean, what's the feeling there? Facepalm Tacticians versus In Panic. Who do we think is the favourites going into that first quarterfinal?
Well, Facepalm Tacticians are a little bit of an interesting team because they only have 4 players on their actual roster, and therefore they have to play with substitute players. On one hand, that might be a liability. On the other hand, you register the subs for the entire duration of the cup, and you have a lot of time for getting synergies already, and I believe that their substitute player will definitely show up to try and beat In Panic. And his stats also not exactly featured on the team's page, I believe, which makes it even harder to strategize against the team. So In Panic, probably not too bad of a team, but I think that on paper, Facepalm Tacticians are a favorite, and I would even put them as a dark horse to win it all.
Well, yeah, because they came top of the group, and I know that's the group with Beehive, right? So it's definitely a strong team. I think, yeah, that's going to be. There's a lot of strong contenders here going towards that Rare Cup final, where teams will have a chance at winning a trophy made of the highest quality plastic that we can get for a reasonable price. So, yeah, teams are definitely going to be feeling excited. Now, Yosh, I believe you've played in the Rare Cup before. Is that right?
It's actually a funny story. I do have a rare cup. I have received one for winning it, but I have never actually came down to the field in the rare cup because I had a little bit of a real life commitment to go to, and the team was kind enough that they were able to find an offlaner that actually turned out to be better than I am, and that allowed them to sweep the playoffs and win it all despite being a dark horse themselves in the tournament.
Ah, okay. So nice. So you've not actually played in the playoff day, but I mean, from your team, what was their feeling? What will the players be feeling like as they warm up for these games that should be starting, hopefully in a few minutes?
I don't know. The playoffs are a strange place because you spend a lot of time strategizing. At least we did spend a lot of time, like half a day strategizing. I believe I woke up very early on the playoff day to just try and find anything to help my team win against their first opponents. And you are preparing for a very long day of matches because you need to play two best of threes and the best of five if you want to get the cup. But you can also be out in two games, and that is going to be a big mood whiplash. And while the endurance aspect does not come into play until at least semifinals, the quarterfinals are all about preparation against each other, and I will be quite interested to see what the teams have prepared.
Yeah, and these teams are the teams that really know each other as well. So it'll be a lot about preparation and thinking about each other's strategies, and especially the teams that have faced each other before, either in the division or the group stages. They will be looking at those games and seeing, how can we build on what's happened there? If they won, they'll be saying, how can we punish again the same things we punished last time? And if they lost, they'll be saying, how can we change things up? How can we respond to the strategies that we've seen? So there is a lot of sort of mind games that goes into the preparation of teams for a tournament like this. And this is, of course, don't forget, this is effectively what these teams have been playing towards for now 14, 15 weeks since the start of the season. They've been trying to get trying to build towards this moment, trying to keep their team improving, win through the division stages, to get themselves into that playoffs, to get themselves here today, so they can have a shot at the Heroes Lounge Rare Cup. And like we say, the winner will get a trophy. Well, all the players in the winning team gets a trophy, as well as promotion, I believe, to the division above.
Well, statistically, the teams that have been promoted usually don't do that well because, the difference of play level is wildly different. Although, with how stacked Division 7 teams looked versus the best Division 6 can offer, I'm pretty sure that the math will work out this time around. 7 is more than 6, and those Division 7 teams will make a nice addition to the next season's Div 6.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I think all of these teams want to win the Rare Cup today. This is obviously what they've been playing for, but they will also be thinking about next season, that promotion. Where will they fit in the divisions they get promoted to? And that will depend on, of course, which team wins today. I believe we're almost ready to start the draft, but before we do, let's take a quick look at the map bans from taking us to Towers of Doom for game number 1. And so it looks like Battlefield of Eternity and Dragonshire were banned by Kwak-A-Mole, and Brax's Holdout and Infernal Shrines were banned by their opponents Unleashed. And we're going to Towers of Doom for game number 1.
Actually, Unleashed, quite known for banning out Braxis in all of their games. Not quite sure why, just might be a thing that does not exactly work with the team, and you are better off banning out the maps that you are bad on, because even if your opponents are not known to play it, they may just wildly pick it in an effort to throw you off. And it's the first game of the playoff day. Your preparation will definitely deteriorate later, but for now you will take every advantage that you can scout out of your opponents. Shrines is a very popular map by Kwak-A-Mole. Battlefield is a very popular map of Unleashed. Dragonshire is a map that's very dependent on the offlaner, and I do believe that Unleashed are not exactly slacking on that point. And we do get Hours of Doom, a very nice map to cast. So let's move into the bands, shall we?
We are indeed moving into those bands, and let's see what these teams are going for. So, what here in Division 6 and 7, do teams tend to focus meta bands, or do they tend to focus comfort bands for their opponents? That's Anduin. That sounds more like a comfort band to me.
Well, that is actually an interesting topic to discuss because generally the Division 7 teams have been known to ban out just the meta heroes. But I believe that I was a little bit of a thing that could change that with my preparation for the play of day as a part of 500 MS. We have tried to look at our opponents, and turns out some of the opponents' hero pools have been a little bit shallow. Unfortunately, the teams have stepped it up a lot, so there will be no easy scouting for the opponent. He will just need to take a blind leap of faith and try to take away the best that your opponents can get, but you will not be able to ban out players entirely. Anduin is actually a little bit of a comfort ban for Kwak-A-Mole, however, they have been banning him 16 times throughout the season, that being the 17th game where they take out the healer.
Irel ban there, and I really like that. I think Irel's really strong here on towers because of her speed of rotation, and she's just a really indestructible solo laner as well. So a solid ban there from Kwak-A-Mole to take away the Space Goat. Now, how do Unleashed respond here? Because there's quite a few sort of heroes that are considered meta open. I know that in the Rare Cup teams divisions, by the way, they love Kael'thas. They love to prioritize that Kael'thas ban often, but so far that doesn't seem to have come up. And there's the Sonya ban. So are we going to see prioritization for Kael'thas as we often see in Division 6 and 7? No, is Joanna coming out first?
You will be surprised, Kael'thas is actually not as popular in the current meta of Division 7. There's a lot more attention given to the Johanna, for example. Kwak-A-Mole also like picking their Greymane, which I suspect might get picked away because he is also Unleashed, second most picked hero. Irel is actually Unleashed, fourth most picked hero, but Sonya is not in the top 5, so I believe that Unleashed are preparing something spicy in the offlane with those two bans. As of now, we just have Greymane and Hansel picked up, playing safe, taking away the heroes that their opponents have been playing a lot, and preparing to see what the future will uphold.
Yeah, I mean, those are two solid picks there from Unleashed, and I think nothing too surprising as well. Just solid auto attack damage is going to put a lot of poke pressure. I think Joanna's not worried about that so much. Here's the Li Ming and the Ana though. Now that could be a threat for Ana. Is she going to get a Greymane all up in her grill? Played by Escorp there. Will Joanna have enough peel to deal with that, do you think?
Well, let's see, because you can also pick an offlaner that can disengage for your team. There were a lot of Blaze buffs in the recent patches. There was a Tessner and a Cassia, both of which I believe can pull off some kind of peeling stuff. Another offlane ban from Unleashed, however, as they are trying to prepare something very, very spicy. Both Zul and Leoric quite popular on this map.
Yeah, very interesting indeed, actually. I think Zul absolutely, double soak priority is very important. So that seems to be the strategy here in a lot of the bans, is deny that double soak idea, and neither team so far has picked up a double soaker. So presumably we're going to see something like Malthael or something coming out to cover that. There's the Dahaka. Dahaka can double soak. He doesn't have to go race car to do it either. But I think he'll have a lot easier time of double soaking if he goes for that movement speed on the level 1. That's an Imperious main tank.
Well, Imperious main tank, a thing that has been brought up a bunch of times in Division 6. With the Q level 1, the engages can be absolutely devastating, and usually the teams are showing a little bit of trouble evading the spear in the Rare Cup so far. The Haka not only a double soaker but also a global, and despite banning out Braxis and not liking the heavy offlane versus foreman interaction, I think that Unleashed are will be perfectly able to play with the offlane. And Rega on the last pick, the healer was not banned. The Bloodlust, while nerfed, can still do a bunch alongside the E-Scorp, alongside the Greymane, Hanzo backline. Malthael is a little bit of a cheeky pick. I'm not quite sure how this will work out for Kwak-A-Mole, however.
Well, viewers, you've still got 1 minute to get your bets in on who you think will win game number 1 in the first quarterfinal of today's Heroes Lounge Rare Cup. Type exclamation mark bet A and a number of points to bet on Kwak-A-Mole, and exclamation mark bet B and a number for Unleashed. And we will see in just a few minutes when this game starts which of these teams is going to win. So definitely, these are both interesting drafts. I mean, Yosh, what's your gut feeling about which team has got the edge here in the draft?
So that is a very interesting draft. I think that both teams kind of want to just dive each other, which does always result in very messy fights in which the result is usually defined on some very, very small margins. So, and the map being Towers of Doom, a map most suited to comebacks, in my opinion, because you can't really lose until you make a big mistake. And we've got a game on our hands. We've got a very interesting game on our hands. I do believe that if we get to level 20, Kira might pop off a little bit with the spinning ultimate and its upgrade, which has been changed for the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it should be very interesting. Well, we're going to have to see what happens as we go into game number 1 in this Heroes Lounge Rare Cup. And in blue, on the left, we have Kwak-A-Mole, with Herm on the Li Ming, with Doom Redcoat on that Ana, with Bobhead Kunyin on Johanna, with Wave Mani on Kira, and Dizzy Dwarf on Malthael.
And on the right, in red, the Ukrainian squad of Unleashed with E-Scorp on Greymane. Drago is going to be playing Hanzo, Somber Evil, showing up with a tank Imperius, Araku playing up the Dihaka, and Black Lotus is going to be trying to heal all of this on a Rega.
Absolutely. So, level 1 talents are in. Li Ming going for the Power Hungry. Joanna going for that Iron Skin, hold your ground, reduce cooldown. Don't forget that, of course, the cooldown of Iron Skin was increased recently. So this is a smaller proportion of the Iron Skin cooldown now than it used to be. Any other talents that catch your eye there?
Well, not sure. I don't think so. I'm quite interested to see what the Power Hungry will be going into. But we do have a nice 2-man queue from Somber Evil, Doom Redcoat falling quite low and battling in a little bit of an alcove there. Not the best position from the Ana will cost Kwak-A-Mole the first blood as Unleashed come out swinging.
Yeah, it's a really nice engage there from Imperius just to put pressure on that rotation, knowing as they did that Kwak-A-Mole had to go to that bot lane and start clearing. But you know, Ana's quite easy to catch out in that kind of situation, particularly with an Imperius who's got that lovely skewering engage. So immediately we see E-Scorp on the Greymane going straight for that Sapper camp, getting that up and running. So control of the bot lane is going to be so crucial for these players here on Towers of Doom. And that's why they're prioritizing those camps at the bot lane as early as they can. Both teams picking up their Sapper camp.
And not only the bot lane, not only the foreman, but the off lanes are also being prioritized to double soak as much as possible. Both Dihaka and Malthael being able to do that. And Unleashed, using the global in the best way possible, just engaging on the enemy's supper camp, taking it out without a big engage that would thwart their plans.
Really nice play there from Dihaka, who has, by the way, gone for that enhanced agility at level 1. So more mobile to move around the lanes top and mid as well. But here, using that global to great potential, as you say, to just come into the camp. And the other thing is, even when he doesn't actually use it, it's always a threat. So then Kwak-A-Mole can't really commit too hard to the 4v4s because of the risk that it's going to suddenly become a 4v5. And that is something they have to be constantly mindful of for the whole game.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? But Now, after the global has been used, is probably the weakest that Unleashed 4-man will be, because the Haka is not quite able to join them. Fortunately for them, they do have a lot of pressure on the bot lane of Kwak-A-Mole to kind of make them stop trying to find the engages. First, Altar phase will feature 2 altars up top, and 1 altar in the bot lane as per usual. I do expect the top altars to just be traded 1-for-1, and the main battle will be fought in the bot lane. What are your predictions for the first phase?
I think they're gonna take the top altars 1-for-1, as you say, and then Dahaka and Malthael can both get here pretty fast. I think Dahaka has his brush stalker available. Yes, he does. So he'll be in immediately. But of course, on a pale horse from Malthael going to help him rotate fast. But in comes Dahaka. Immediately, Joanna taken out with the help of that strong Imperious engage. And so far, it's 2 kills to 0, and it's going to be 2 altars to 1 in favor of Unleashed.
And that's the beauty of the Imperious, because while not exactly the biggest tank in terms of actually tanking, in dive compositions, he's probably one of the best main tanks that you can choose, thanks to his amazing engage on the Q and the amount of sheer follow-ups that he can bring up to the table to it.
Yeah.
Link going for Triumvirate on level 4, I am a little bit known in the Division 6, Division 7 ways, and Orb build Ming is a popular build down there. Do you think it will be?
I think it would be surprising. By the way, huge heals on Kira absolutely keeps Kira alive and able to sustain through that fight. Turn around and kill the Rhaegar, and probably the Imperious as well here. Nice little body blocks from Joanna. Stole the Somber Evil and secures the kill. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think full orb because of the dive that the enemy team has here. And wow, what a performance here from Kwak-A-Mole to get themselves well and truly back into this game. Lovely little fight there from them, in particular from Wave Money on the Kira, who started off by taking so much punishment and then turned it around.
And that's how you strike back. Imperious might be great in engaging, but when he misses the Q or when the engage doesn't quite work out, he's not exactly able to walk out, which did allow Wave Manai to absolutely pop off and get some very nice
top camp though. Sorry to interrupt, but here there's a big fight warming up for the top camp. Both Li Ming and Dahaka have rotated up. Oh, but it's the Li Ming who secures the advantage there, and that's so unfortunate for Unleashed, because Dizzy Dwarf on that Malthael just sat in the bush watching East Corp's Greymane do the camp, and then when the time was right, he pulled the trigger.
But the objective is spawning bot lane, and Malthael will not be there for this one, although everyone's moving down and Unleashed and not exactly able to secure the altar before everyone shows up. Somber Evil being the target of the engage in the mid lane, walking out without any pressure while the 3-man is trying to find a fight, but Grego overstepping a little bit, getting caught up in the orb and in the damage of the Li Ming. The 2-man Q from Somber Evil will help his team disengage. Another 2-man Q, he can potentially try to survive, but not gonna be an option any longer. Quick 2 kills for Kwak-A-Mole as the team definitely strikes back and breaks.
Yeah, a huge fight again from Kwak-A-Mole, who are starting to look really strong. I think, so one of the factors here is that Imperious as a tank relies so much on his self-healing, but Anna's grenade is just shutting that down, perfectly timed often by Doom Redcoat on the Anna. And that's stopping Imperious from being able to heal himself, and therefore he just gets chunked down because he doesn't have that huge HP pool of some of the other tanks. So it's kind of a bit tough for Imperious there against the Anna. The thing we have to remember, though, of course, is that this is a Bloodlust comp from Unleashed, so their game plan is very much built around getting that Bloodlust on Black Lotus, and when they do, their plan is just going to be to run over the enemy and not wait for Imperious to get poked down, which is what's happening a little bit so far.
Speaking of Bloodlust, the ultimates are coming out on the right. We do have the last ride, the final strike, the blast shield from the Johanna Nano Boost, and the wave of force from the Li Ming. No funky business, no spinning ultimate on the Kier, which is a thing that I definitely wanted to see. And on the right, we do have the first bullet, the Dragon Arrow, Angelic Armament, Isolation, and the Bloodlust. And
yeah, I think this Bloodlust is a real game changer here for Unleashed, and that's very much what their game plan is built around. They really want to just run at that enemy, dive in hard, and they've managed to pick up their camp before Joanna could get in there. That's a nice sleep onto Somber Evil, gets the grenade to follow, doesn't have any self-healing. The Bloodlust could be popped here. It has been, and in goes Imperius, catches the Kira out. They're going to catch onto the Joanna as well. It's going to be 2 kills for nothing. It looks like the rest are going to get away for now.
And the blast shield actually missing from the Johanna there as well. Rather unfortunate, dooming the tank of Kwak-A-Mole to fall down. Nano boost used, not quite sure when it happened, but the main difference right now is while Unleashed might be ahead on players, they are behind on the ultimates. And if Kwak-A-Mole will find an engage, they could definitely pop off there.
Yeah, it could be a strat there from Kwak-A-Mole, is because by the way, Kwak-A-Mole still ahead in XP despite losing that little fight from the Bloodlust. They're still ahead in XP. Oh, but this is maybe a gank onto Dizzy Dwarf. Can't get away, I think. 24 HP. The doggy bites him in the behind.
And yes, you don't mess with the Woofer, but Wave Annihilation on top of the Rhaegar eating a stun in response. The fight will continue. The trait will not work, but the Blast Shield is there to disengage. Somebody will find Nikio and Bobhead Connie, but there will be nothing in terms of follow-up to back it up.
Yeah, nice disengage there from Kwak-A-Mole, given a tough situation from a really nice isolation from Dehaka. So, and they knew, look, we've got the kill. We've taken the pounding we were expecting, and we've walked away. But in comes Imperius with the skewer, and Li Ming gets away.
So low margins.
Yeah,
teams are playing well. Teams are not exactly going to die, and if you are not dead, the amount of HP that you are on does not exactly matter, because the healers are able to back you up as long as you don't die. You are also able to continue putting pressure on the enemy team, continue putting the damage in, and potentially swinging the fight for yourself. Another Q hitting there with a Dragon. This is Dwarf. A little bit of miscommunication from Unleashed, but it will not matter that much because the Dragon Arrow follow-up will be enough to ensure the kill on the Malthael. Another Q from Somber Evil, a little bit further than I would have gone, but not exactly punished for it.
Yeah, they definitely Unleashed trying to punish Malthael again and again in this game. He's only on 2 deaths so far, but that is going to start slowing down his soaking as well as everything else. But now,
fighting for the enemy Ultra, we do see the latch on. The isolation will come out. The cleanse to keep the Kira on the ground. Greymane falling down first, but Ana will be the trait, and the healer being down is huge for Unleashed. However, Li Ming gets the resets, and Li Ming gets to pop off. Quickly shut down by Araku, and Wavemanai, Greygo, Araku, and Dizzy Dwarf will fight a 2v2, in which Hanzo will die to the last rights, ending the fight.
Yeah, really nice there from both teams, and it turned out to be a really close fight in the end. And despite really nice aggressive engage from Unleashed, but Kwak-A-Mole started to get huge value of that Li Ming. Eventually, it was shut down, but a fairly even fight, all things considered. 11 kills to 9, very close on the XP as well. In fact, if we take a look at the XP, where that's coming from, it's 12k from Dehaka and 11.7k from Malthael. So those two offlaners really both soaking out of their minds here, keeping each other held to account in terms of the soak. So brilliant performance from both of those offlaners so far, and neck and neck so far mostly in these team fights.
And yeah, the issue there is Kwak-A-Mole are still able to continue their lead both in kills and the experience despite all of the attention that Unleashed are bringing to those teamfights, despite all of their attempts. And another one might be coming on Dizzy Dwarf shortly afterwards, but he gets the scout on the Hanzo arrow and will just back out.
Yeah, I mean, credit again to Dizzy Dwarf for soaking as much as they have, given how much gank pressure has been put on the Malthael so far. The thing is, though, whilst they've been going looking for those Malthael kills, the blue team Kwak-A-Mole have just been chipping down that bottom lane, and now they've finally taken that bottom tower, and that's the bot lane control that we said at the start is so crucial to how you play this map, as the level 16 talents are in.
And, you know, usually you just sit on the bot lane and guard this fort like big hand guards her little chickens. But as of now, we will just go to the altars, try to take both of them, put 10 damage into the core of Unleashed, and get ourselves ahead in the race. However, Iscorp and Somber Evil trying to go for something. The Dragon Arrow comes out, but misses just slightly on Dizzy Dwarf. That's going to be very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's quite unfortunate. Lovely skewer from Imperius, though. In comes the Blessed Shield to try to stop that engage. Dehaka going in, looking for the Joanna, whose Iron Skin is about to end. Huge silence from Dehaka. Stops Kira from getting any value, and she's gone down. Somber Evil there, still put to sleep, is still getting some value. The last ride comes out and finishes him off, but it's still 2 for 1 so far.
That's the 2-for-1 trade, but I don't think Unleashed can get this Ultra just yet because of the Triumvirate, because of the reset that Liming will definitely get if she hits anyone. And the sleep comes out to stop Iscorp from turning in. However, Araku popping off alongside Greygo, moving in, killing the Ana and trying to peel for his teammate who just finishes taking up the altar. That's going to be a 6-for-5 in the Ultra phase, and despite losing a structure, they are actually winning.
Huge play there from Dehaka to stop Ana and Li Ming coming in. Just standing up, good frontline play, just standing up there and being a threat. And that's something that Dehaka's really good for. Especially with that movement speed to allow him to chase Ana there. There was just no way she could get away once Dehaka touched her bush. So then, now the Unleashed are going to start decapping that bot lane. And now they may even be thinking about invading here, but too late because Kira's already capped that sapper camp on the blue side.
Well, you at least get your own camp, you at least get to retake the structure that was taken away from you, and now you have more people on the bot lane, so you can potentially just de-push that camp and look for a fort with the sapper camp of your own. That fort is not exactly having a lot of HP, and the sappers will definitely bring a lot of damage to the equation.
Cleanse was whipped out there by Black Lotus, not wanting to allow any further follow-up, and now that means the nod for the Blessed Shield, but the Bloodlust has been popped. In comes Dehaka with the isolation onto Malthael. They tried to catch with the skewer, but Joanna's in the way, but Wave Manny and Lakira gets absolutely taken down. Lovely turnaround onto Joanna. Maybe they can catch onto more here, but I think probably not. Malthael will start running away here. Grayman thinking about chasing, though.
And once again, they do get this teamfight win. They do get the re-engage on the Johanna, on the Kira, and finding out those crucial picks to turn the fight for themselves. To the victor goes the spoils, and the spoils in this case will be the bot fort, the one that is so coveted in your usual Towers of Doom maps. The next altar phase will feature 2 altars on the bot lane, which makes that fort even harder to lose. Malthael being picked off as a cheeky engage from a bush, and that's going to be another 10 damage.
Yeah, these engages from Somber Evil, so huge. Like, the skewers are being so devastating against the team of Kwak-A-Mole, and that's going to give a bit of space here to go for boss. And crucially, that means they have a win condition here, and that win condition is 1 altar will win the game for Unleashed.
Well, you know, there are 2 maps in the game that teach you simple mathematics. This one and Smooth the Spider Queen. And as of now, unfortunately, Unleashed are 4 HP short of achieving their goal, meaning that Kwak-A-Mole get a Brazier, get some time to rethink their strategy, get some time to soak until level 20 before the next altar phase starts.
Yes, and so I think Kwak-A-Mole will be able to get this level 20 as long as they play safe enough. Careful, Joanna. Imperius is looking for you. Somber Evil steps up.
Ooh, the Dragon Arrow on the Kira. However, the follow-up is instant as Kira is blown up. Wavenai not having a nice game after he's popping off. Malthael being isolated and killed as well. And that's another 2 kills in a fight from Unleashed. They do not need more. They just need to make sure that they are ahead.
Yes, and that they are, and the altars are spawning in 25 seconds, with Kira and Malthael not up for 45 seconds. This is going to be a very, very tough defense for Kwak-A-Mole. They will get the level 20, but how can they stop 3v5? How can they stop their opponents taking a single altar here? Because that's all that is needed in order to win the game for Unleashed. So it's a really tough task here for Kwak-A-Mole. They step up.
And there we go. The engage comes out on the Johanna, and the Johanna gets blown up in what seems to be the last kill on the map. However, her gonna get engaged on by Somber Evil Dyne as well. Doom Ratcoat finds an interrupt on Iscorp with a sleep, but Zana will get forced away while the Greymane and the Captain of Unleashed channels the final 4 shots into the core of Kwak-A-Mole.
game number 1 goes over to Unleashed, and well played. Yeah, to me that was a really impressive performance here from Unleashed. But very close, I have to say, that first game. So back and forth on the kills. In the end, it was 20 kills to 12, but basically, I believe it was 12 kills to 11 at some point in the other direction. So definitely a very close game in terms of those takedowns. Damage, there was more damage on the side of Kwak-A-Mole as well. So definitely a close game number 1. Kwak-A-Mole shouldn't be too disheartened though.
Yeah, that main breaking point, I believe, was at level 13, maybe even 16, when Unleashed just got into the rhythm and were able to find the 2 picks that they need every fight, because you can't fight. You can fight 4v5, you can't fight 3v5. And after you catch those targets who are engaged a little bit too deep, not too much, but enough to take advantage of it, you will just start rolling over with their advantages and get the first map for themselves. So congratulations, Unleashed and Kwak-A-Mole. Now on a back foot, but they have proven that they can win games when it matters. And let's see how much dedication, how much adaptation there will be between the games, because that's probably the most interesting aspect of those series. The fact that you have that mid-match adaptation, the fact that you can discuss what you need to change in your plans, in your drafts, in your bands, and even in your map pick.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's going to be really interesting how to play this. So Kwak-A-Mole taking the first pick. What map should Unleashed think about going here? Apparently, well, too late for us to speculate, because they are actually going to go for Tomb of the Spider Queen. Do you think first pick was the right decision by Kwak-A-Mole?
Well, I always like to ask people what would they choose, the first pick or the map pick. And the answer I usually receive is you go for first pick unless you have some kind of cheese for taking the map pick. So taking the first pick, usually safer, usually easier, allows you to pick the best heroes that is not going to get banned, which is usually the best heroes that you can afford either way. And potentially even take away the best hero of your opponents. So not the worst strategy, not the best. Allows your opponent to pick out a map that they like if they got any cheese on it. And Unleashed do like their Tomb of the Spider Queen. 4 games picked.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective about the map pick. I've never thought about it like that. I think the other thing that some players think about as well as those cheese strats that you were talking about, is that some maps having second pick is advantageous. It's like Brax's Holdout, like Dragonshire, but crucially, those maps have been banned by the players here. In fact, let's take a look at the map draft so far in this best of 3 quarter-final. So you can see here on screen that we had Battlefield of Eternity and Dragonshire banned by Kwak-A-Mole, and Brax's Holdout and Infernal Shrines banned by their opponents, Unleashed, who have picked Towers of Doom, and now, where they were successful, and now Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Well, I don't know. First pick is very nice, but second pick allows you to pick 2 heroes out of the pool. They are not the best one, but I do believe that there are enough heroes in the meta for you to try and get good heroes for yourself, and just not ban them, put your opponent into some kind of draft trap. Although, unfortunately, those teams have their specific playstyles which do not exactly clash with each other very well. Therefore, you are usually banning things that your opponent plays. Therefore, you don't usually want to switch your bans too much. However, let's see how the adaptation will go, because once again, that's probably the most interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, I think the draft is going to be so critical here on Tomb of the Spider Queen. Having good wave clear for that rotation, keeping control of those mid and top lanes especially. So I guess the Joanna first pick is going to be inevitable here from Kwak-A-Mole again. I mean, the thing is, Kwak-A-Mole played very well last game, and they looked on top of the game quite a few times, and they had good control of that bot lane as well. It's going to be interesting to see if they can replicate that and just turn up the pressure a little bit more. And maybe I think the bigger issue that they had in that game was A, the bloodlust, and B, those kind of picks Imperius or Hacker were able to find on often Malthael or Kira sometimes, who tend to be further forwards, and then they just got punished with a lot of CC.
Another interesting issue to consider is maybe you want to pick your offlaner first, because usually you are trying to save the offlaners for the last pick, and therefore the second team picking gets an advantage. But that doesn't exactly matter now because the enemy team still has the second pick. So what am I talking about? Unleashed have used all of their bans to try to target the offlaner, and that, while always a good strategy, does mean that you can try to switch your draft up. You can try to pick your offlaner before the enemy side gets their third ban, and try to pick up a good hero for your player if you feel that stand out entirely. Let's see how the games will switch, how the drafts will switch, because we are in our draft for Tombs of Spider Queen.
We are indeed. So, first ban. I think that Rhaegar could be could be a target ban here that comes out. They've gone for the Anduin again, not wanting to allow Unleashed's Anduin. I think they do have to be cautious about that Bloodlust. You don't have to ban it, but you have to have maybe an answer to it. Now, obviously, Bloodlust was nerfed in the last patch, but that gives more opportunities to have answers to it, whether it's long blinds, whether it's disengaged with Gust or Emerald Wind or something. So there are better answers to it now.
Nerfed enough because Unleashed are still using it to its full potential and getting those kills and getting those wins. Another big offlane ban on the Leoric this time around. A double soaker, a Entomb Master, and Entombs are very important on Tombs of Spider Queen, a very small map, as we all know.
I have just corrected the score was wrong on screen, just to clarify for anyone who's just tuned in. Unleashed won game number 1. It is 1-0 to Unleashed so far in this best of 3 quarterfinal. Yes, Imperius getting banned there. I think that's a good call from them, because the Imperius was so impactful in those hard engages. They did manage to punish him a few times though, especially with that Ana grenade. I thought that was a really nice answer to Imperius. But it seems like they weren't able to deal with the strength of that engage. Joanna gets banned. Greymane gets picked up first by Dizzy Dwarf.
Greymane as well. That's quite solid start of the draft if you are trying to disrupt your opponent. You ban away one of their crucial picks. You pick away the second of their crucial picks. However, you do leave up that ETC for Somber Evil, and the Mosh Pit may be even more impactful than the kills of the Imperius.
There's that Ming, this time picked up by the Unleashed. So yeah, what do we make of that early Ming pickup from Unleashed? Is that more of a kind of deny pick, or is it just because the thing is, Li Ming doesn't have the wave clear of some other mages, and we talked about how important wave clear is going to be here on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
But Li Ming has a lot of damage. Li Ming has an amount of range which is amplified on such a small map as Tomb of the Spider Queen. And Li Ming is one of the interrupts to the mosh pit, which, while not important when you are having the mosh pit, denying them from your opponents is. So that is probably a denial pick, although I'm pretty sure Greygo, as many other carries in Division 7, knows how to play Li Ming. What I want to bring your attention to is Lucio on the side of Kwak-A-Mole. I have seen a lot of Lucio on Thursday, and one of those games there was a high five pickup, which won the game for the team.
I'd be very surprised if we see a high five pickup here, because I think, well, I've got lots of views on high five, which we won't go into all of them just yet, but
of course, that is a cast not for...
But yeah, I mean, I do think Lucio definitely a solid healer. In fact, we can see here 50% win rate in Heroes Lounge Rare Cup divisions there. So solid, doing all right. Not a huge pick rate though. I think the problem with the high five, as we see a Garrosh pick up to go with the ETC. That's a very heavy front line from Unleashed. Problem with the high five is you can get caught in the AoE CCs like the slide, and it just interrupts everything. So, talk to me about this ETC Garrosh double front line.
Well, there are several ways to run it. I think the main one is you put the ETC in the offlane, because ETC surprisingly does actually have a non-zero amount of wave clear, and you can even try to bring up the stage dive if you want. Though its value is a little bit diminished on this map, it's still rather solid, and Garrosh ensures that you have those peaks. You do get the button to check enemies for their poor positioning, which, while it wasn't necessarily bad from Kwak-A-Mole, there were some mistakes for which they were dearly punished in game number 1, and for which they will be punished in this game. Kelfa Corral come out from the left, and the Tychus on the right.
So, one thing that I think is going to be interesting is the lack of wave clear maybe here from Unleashed, as there's only the Rhaegar really who has any wave clear at all from. I mean, okay, Tychus has a bit, but I think compared to the phenomenal wave clear power of Kwak-A-Mole, the Rhaegar is the only one there for Unleashed who's got very strong wave clear. That's fine. There's probably enough in sort of normal laning phase, but if you get a hand in or a camp that comes out from Kwak-A-Mole, that's something that maybe Unleashed will really be slow to deal with. But we'll have to see, of course, how it goes as we go into game number 2 in this best of 3 series.
In blue, we have Herm playing as the Grey main. Doom Redcoat on Lucio, Wave Benai picking up the Irel, Dizzy Dwarf on Mal'Ganis, and Bobhead Conin as the Terror of the Rare Cup, the Kalphas.
And in the red corner for Unleashed, we have Eastcorp on the Tychus. We have Grego on the Li Ming, Somber Evil on the Garrosh, Black Lotus on Rhaegar, and Areku on ETC. So, level 1 talents are in. Nothing too surprising so far. I mean, fairly standard talents all around. I like the block party choice from ETC in particular, because that will help really slow down the Greymane. But I wonder if Lucio's going to cut through it a little bit fast.
Well, Lucio definitely a great counter to the block party talent, although it's more of a situation where you are counter-picking yourself. And speaking of your suggestions that Unleashed might have a little bit of a wave clear problem, do you even need that much wave clear when you have enough player clear, so the enemy does not have wave clear as well?
That's true. If you just clear all the enemy heroes, then you won't have any push to deal with.
Heroes, that is a very aggressive rotation from the side of Kwak-A-Mole. However, Araku on top of it and just moving back, playing it safe.
Well, I am known for saying ETC solo lane is literally unkillable, and I think they're going to have a very hard time ganking Areku in the solo lane. I think it's absolutely the right call from Kwak-A-Mole though, to use that Lucio value. Just keep these lanes really fluid. Keep ETC always second guessing how far he can step forward, and just constantly be all over the map. In comes a throw from Garrosh though onto Dizzy Dwarf, presses the sleep, walks away. And I think the sleep was timed nicely so that Tychus had already started minigunning, and then the sleep just sort of interrupts that.
On the Mal'Ganis there will not require enough follow-up to bring down the Mal'Ganis, but was a little bit scary for a second. And, Garrosh throwing Mal'Ganis, usually there are great things to come from you throwing in the targets, because you can follow up on them, but some targets you have to be a little bit afraid of throwing in. For example, the EDC, who can just mosh, the Mal'Ganis, who can just go around and sleep the targets. And I don't know how great are the throws that Sombrero is getting for now. Definitely shows a nice amount of understanding from Kwak-A-Mole how to play against the orc.
Yeah, I'm liking the way Kwak-A-Mole is doing this so far. I think later on, Mal'Ganis may just get melted after getting thrown, so they have to be really careful of that because everything is going to be about how fast they can kill him. If they can kill him basically before Lucio arrives with that sound barrier, because the moment Mal'Ganis gets thrown in, Lucio's got to start running in and pressing R on the way in. The question is, do they kill him before it lands? And if they do, it's going to be a disaster for the blue team. But if they don't, maybe Mal'Ganis will turn around, as you say, and start CCing the whole enemy team.
The Mal'Ganis, the bigger they are, definitely a big help in trying to bring the tank down, but Doom Redcoat moving way back into the backline, trying to take down Escorp. Dicus will go low, but will not go down, and as we have already established, not going down is a big boon for your team.
Yeah, I think is going all right so far for both these teams. One thing that Lucio has to be particularly careful of, because I mean I love Lucio as a healer, and he is very annoying to deal with. He's always kind of hovering around and being a nuisance. But one thing he's very vulnerable to is hard CC. If an ETC catches a slide, if Garrosh catches a taunt onto Lucio, he will just be dead. And that is going to be something Team Redcoat has to be so cautious about stepping up and being anywhere near those two tanks who have the CC to effectively take him out.
And another throw comes out, this time on the Waveman Eyes. Irel not looking too great, but looking good enough, and good enough is usually enough. Well, the Q comes out, the follow-up is there. Doom Redcoat falling quite low, but this is the need to disengage for his healer. And speaking of stepping up, you do need to pace those gems to send the Web Weaver waves. And the first one will get sent by Unleashed from the right side of the map to the left. Let's see how much damage we will be able to acquire based on this one.
Yeah, so this is, I think, Kwak-A-Mole have, decent wave play. They should be able to handle this fairly easily. Here's an attempted gank from them onto ETC. Solo and ETC, not going to take too much of a pounding there. He just knocks them back and slides to safety. Never too much of an issue for ETC there. But yeah, so I think Kwak-A-Mole should be able to just clear these waves easily enough. The question is whether Garrosh can force some kind of engage to stop the wave clear. At the moment, it seems like not. So the mid's been cleared fairly trivially. Now all they have to do is rotate top safely, and everything should be okay. Somebody will just trying to nicely trying to intercept that rotation. Team Redcoat's there a little bit before their team. Steps up though and starts doing some damage. Mal'Ganis gets thrown in. In comes to Lucio with the speed, switches it to heals, amps that up that Dizzy Dwarf, and Mal'Ganis survives.
I like how Kwak-A-Mole played that phase, by the way. You usually try to defend the mid lane, and when the mid Web Weaver is dead, your opponent switches to top lane, so that's where you go. But no, Kwak-A-Mole started by scaring away the ETC, making sure that the Irel can clean up the Web Weaver down bottom before it does too much damage, negating a lot of damage that you usually get from the offlane on the first Web Weaver wave, which may or may not be huge. The jury is still out on this one, but is definitely a very nice and very cheeky play for the team in blue.
Yes, absolutely. And I think they should be able to get this hand in soon enough. Minigun used from Tychus. There's no minigun. This is the thing that really need to be keeping an eye on the side of Kwak-A-Mole, is when you see something like minigun go on cooldown, that's when Mal'Ganis can afford to step up and be really aggressive. Because if minigun's down and Mal'Ganis gets thrown in, he doesn't care. Like, he can just, look, now he just swipes. Nice gravity lapse to follow. They should have made that into an engage, I think, with that minigun still on cooldown. Going to start chasing, though, put a bit of pressure onto Garrosh, but there's no real danger to Garrosh just now.
And yeah, we do have the clans coming out from the Rega, which will be a big help against the Mal'Ganis, but the question becomes, which target do you try to cleanse when everyone is slapped?
Yes, hang on, there's a bit of a fight here onto Garrosh. Garrosh threw Irel in, and again, it didn't go so well for Garrosh, because Irel just started spanking Garrosh. And, of course, there were 5 blues around Garrosh, and he got punished. So, blue Web Weaver's secured, and with Garrosh dead, they should be able to push pretty hard. Importantly, they also have the level 10, and this is where that lack of wave clear may become a real issue for Unleashed, because Rhaegar's lightning shield, there's no melee here to step up and use that lightning shield to clear their wave, so it's going to be quite tough for them to clear the waves. The mid Web Weaver should be cleared safely enough, but there's still 2 other lanes pushing very heavily, and ETC is not the hero for wave clear.
But you see, where there's the bad things, there's sometimes usually a good thing as well, and going in, trying to take down the towers, the blue team needs to move in a little bit and maybe even potentially overextend, because players sometimes do not know how far they are allowed to move, and that's a very hard thing to figure out. The Ancestral Healing comes out on the Garrosh there, the out of the fray on Black Lotus, the throw comes out on Doom Redcoat, who falls quite low and actually quite dead.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was talking about. Lucio's fine until he gets CC'd. Anything else he can handle. He gets CC'd once here, that was a taunt. The taunt's not that huge a duration, still dead. Basically in the time of the taunt. And that's something Doom Redcoat has to be so cautious about, is getting anywhere near the Garrosh. And of course he wants to go in. They want to go in and get that disruptions Garrosh, get those slows, get that extra pushback and keep Garrosh in trouble. But if you get taunted, you can just die.
And speaking of being feast or famine, I think that the composition of Unleashed is also one of those cases, because you have mentioned that they got no wave clear, so they are very well done when they are ahead. They can clear the waves with the wave, they can find the player kills, but when they lose the objective, they do not have a lot of ways to defend it, and that just does allow Kwak-A-Mole to snowball even a little bit. However, the engage coming out, Oracle falling quite low, as well as Dizzy Dwarf, who manages to find a Carrion Swarm. Somber Evil not looking quite great, and so doesn't Escorp, who will receive an orange in his face in roughly 5 seconds.
Yeah, no, so he's been taken down, and it was already going to be difficult to escape. I mean, I have to say, I'm slightly surprised by the Pyro pick, because the thing with Pyro is it allows you to catch somebody who's going to run away. When you have the Lucio, you can already catch people who are running away. They could have just used Lucio speed to catch Tychus there if they wanted. Pyro, though, will allow them potentially to take down those juicy targets.
Pyroblast
the key moments.
For option, in my opinion, because Lucio, to use Lucio's speed to try and catch the targets, you need to go in with the Lucio, and as you have already said, the throw might be the death of Lucio, the power slide from the ETC might be the death of Lucio, and you need to be very aware of what are you doing. The taunt comes out on Wave Moon Eyes, there's a power slide, the mosh pit on 2 from Unleashed. No interrupt is there yet, but the Ardent Defender will ensure that there will be not enough follow-up on the side of Unleashed. Drago gets out of the fray. The Ancestral Healing coming out on the Garrosh will ensure that no one dies in this fight.
Beautiful, beautiful fight from Kwak-A-Mole to save that after a very nice mosh pit there from Areiko. The problem they had is, of course, most of their damage was zoned out by Mal'Ganis. Dizzy Dwarf on the Mal'Ganis doing phenomenal stuff, stepping up there and just taking a lot of abuse and getting away with it, because when that minigun isn't available, Mal'Ganis generally can't die. And so lovely stepping up there from Dizzy Dwarf, zoned out anyone from dealing damage to the mosh pit, apart from a little bit of sustained damage, and Lucio's going to have no trouble with that at all.
And, you know, Kwak-A-Mole don't exactly need to get those wins in the teamfights. They don't even need to win the teamfights to win the game. Think about that for a second. They just need to keep safe, keep the gems on themselves, and turn them in one after the other, and the Weaver Waves will just make sure that Unleashed will lose. Nice cheeky interrupt on the E from the Garrosh. The taunt comes out, the Q as well. Oracle moving in a little bit too far, in my opinion. Not having the mosh pit to save himself. The orange is sent on its merry way and will connect. ETC falling down the first, and so far the only casualty of the fight. This dwarf thrown over the wall. However, the dangers of playing with the Garrosh always present.
Yeah, really nice there, because that looked like a solid, like it was just going to be an advantage there for the Kwak-A-Mole. But lovely throw, as you say, from the Garrosh. You've always got to be thinking about it, always cautious, because you can just get punished by walking too close to a gate, and that's what happened to Mal'Ganis. Still, 1-for-1 there in favor of Kwak-A-Mole. Oh, sorry, not in favor, well, equal for Kwak-A-Mole, and that means, as you say, Kwak-A-Mole are quite happy to play this a little bit slower. Just keep the get objectives, get camps, get that push pressure. Now the question is, can they interrupt this? Lucio's got to be so cautious going in for that poke. Garrosh steps up, threatens the Greymane. They don't have a tank here, and that's the biggest problem they've got. But Irel jumps in a little bit too late, punished by a taunt. That's a little bit of a panic jump in there from Irel, and immediately Somber Evil says, no, I'm the Warlord, and I challenge you to die.
I mean, the main question is, do you even want to interrupt this? All 3 waves are pushed out for you, so the opponent will have to use the Web Weaver health on clearing out those waves to even get to the structures. And defending is not that hard for Kwak-A-Mole. As you have said, they've got a bunch of wave clears, they've got a bunch of objective clear as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think one thing that showed us, that little exchange there, is just how much Kwak-A-Mole depend on Dizzy Dwarf to manage Garrosh. Because Dizzy Dwarf's Mal'Ganis has to just be tanking the throws and going in, you know, and surviving, hopefully. And anyone else who gets thrown in is just going to die. And they can't afford to be... And when they can't get thrown in, that means they can't step up to poke either, because then Garrosh can just walk up with impunity. Nice taunt onto Mal'Ganis. Lucio's still alive, though. Uses the sound barrier. Keeps everyone except Mal'Ganis shielded. And now they're going to turn it around. Go for the swipes. Looking for Garrosh here. Mal'Ganis ult comes out. Full health, so he won't actually gain any healing value. And now he's going to get CC'd.
And no. Very nice save on Iscorp there out of the fray into the Ancestral Healing to make sure that Taka stays alive. I believe he even tanked an orange amidst the carnage. Very nice stuff from Unleashed. However, the sleep comes out, the cleanse as well, to make sure that Iscorp is staying safe. Probably the biggest damage dealer on the side of Unleashed, because your main target is the Mal'Ganis.
I mean, what I love about that from Kwak-A-Mole is the confidence to take that fight 4v5 while Irel was just calmly clearing from the bot lane and getting a camp, by the way. So beautiful, like, control, saying, look, we're going to look threatening, even though we've got somebody clearing. And that means they're very close to getting another hand in. They've got enough gemmies now, just about. Lucio very confidently going here 1v5 to slow this camp down. I think you've got to be confident as a Lucio, but maybe just a bit cautious here, Doom Redcoat, because, of course, as we said, a slide or a taunt will be the end of Lucio, and that would have wasted their turn in. But fair enough to Doom Redcoat, they got away safely, and that's going to allow a huge push pressure on the bot lane, and, of course, on this top lane too. The mid lane has the Bruiser camp, which I think they're going to clear right now.
Well, let's see. The waves are pushed in for Unleashed, which makes for a nice defense against the Web Weaver wave, or World Wide Web, as some might call it. But we do have to consider the fact that Unleashed don't have wave clear. They still don't have any wave clears. They maybe have the, I don't know, Pinball Wizard. And they also do have to move to the top lane, where the tower is already falling, the keep wall is down, and the keep is being the next target.
Well, whilst they don't have wave clear as such, what they do have is good single target web weaver clear. Like, if the web weaver's on its own, it's quite easy for them for Tychus and Ming to just kill that. So it's only when there's a bigger wave that they're gonna struggle. This top keep hasn't gone down though. I think Kwak-A-Mole didn't do enough distraction maybe and stalling in the bot lane where they had the strongest wave. So now I don't think they will actually get any keeps with this push, although both the top and the mid keeps have fallen very low, and level 18s are in.
That's, I believe, while it was not a great wave on its own, I think that wave serves as a very nice setup for the next one, because the next wave pretty much will take both of those keeps down and take a bunch of damage on the bot keep as well. Some rules seen in the bush, finding a throne, wave Manai's a taunt instantly afterwards. The other defender coming out from the URL to save the offlaner. And the fight continues out of the fray on the Odin.
Yeah, Mal'Ganis steps up, tries to find the swipes, catches it onto the Odin here. Cleanse used from Rhaegar onto his corp. So Tychus will be able to step back, but steps back forwards, wants to put damage onto Irel, who has no ult available. ETC still thinking about that mosh pit, but falling a little bit too low to go for it. Greymane starts to chase. Ming
from the orange, and the engage continues. The engage continues. Kwak-A-Mole are ballsy, they are going in, and a little audaciousness goes a long way. You do stop your opponents from thinking that they can win those fights. You stop your opponents from thinking that they can turn in those champs, and you keep them occupied. You keep them occupied. You don't allow them to do stuff while you yourself are buying time before the level 20, before you get those gems. If you lose this fight, that sucks, but I don't think Unleashed are in the win a fight mode. They are in a try to save yourselves mode. And another interrupt comes out from Dizzy Dwarf. The throw comes out on Herm, but he just finds an engage off of it on top of Greygo, who falls very low. The Irel will be able to just secure the kill on the Limin. Iscorp dying as well, and with that Unleashed have no damage. The taunt on 2 is there. Somber Evil falling quite low, as well as the Raku. Black Lotus not looking too healthy either. The engage coming out from Herm. ETC is dead. Black Lotus will not survive either. Diving past the keep before destroying the keep proper, and that's an ace.
This should be GG. Beautiful, beautiful team fight here from Kwak-A-Mole. As you say, Irel just chased the Li Ming till the end of her days. Greymane had got thrown in, but survived the initial onslaught. Not quite a coordinated follow-up on that throw from Unleashed. And so, with that fight, with the level 20, this is going to be GG. It's going to be an equalized series here in the quarterfinal of the Rare Cup.
Well, I did predict this match to go to game number 3, and that's the first prediction of the evening that goes correctly for me. That's nice.
Really nicely executed here from Kwak-A-Mole. I liked everything about the way they executed this. And Mal'Ganis in particular was so crucial in being able to walk up to Garrosh without fear of dying if he got thrown. So that allowed so much space there. 8 kills to 3, so not a high kill game, you know, particularly compared to, say, last game, which was more than double the number of total kills. So not a high kill game, but like we said, so much is about when they can get, what value they can get out of those web weavers, although ultimately it did come down to that final team fight.
And, you know, games on Tombs of Spider Queen don't have to be high kill scenarios, but even if Kwak-A-Mole could play safer, could just play for the waves, could just sit around and wait, I like the decisiveness that they brought up. And that's exactly the things that you are usually lacking when you are one game from being out of the tournament. Fighting for yourself, being aggressive, being oppressive at times even, and just making a statement coming into that game number 3.
So, well, what will they do for game number 3? It seems like Unleashed have gone for first pick. So the map pick will be picked up by Kwak-A-Mole. What are Kwak-A-Mole likely to pick here for their map?
Kwak-A-Mole's 3 most picked maps when they are choosing to pick the maps themselves are Infernal Shrines, which are banned, Tomb of the Spider Queen, which is just played, and Alterac Pass, funnily enough, which is going to be a map that they will indeed pick for game number 3.
Okay, so Alterac Pass. Now that's very interesting because that's all macro.
And that's a big, I would even say barren map, devoid of a lot of things. You do have one camp per side, you do have an objective, and you do have 2 boss camps, which usually are ending up traded for each other, but let's see how those games will go.
So, yeah, I think macro is going to be so important here on Alterac Pass. And that's something we'll have to see how the draft goes here, like how these teams are drafting it, because there's lots of different ideas. Now, we saw that the hacker picked up by Unleashed earlier, and that was really important for them. You know, presumably that's something that Unleashed are going to want to think about again here.
And, well, first pick. I believe that's the first time in the series that Unleashed have the first pick to themselves, which does allow them to take the things that are usually taken by their enemies. You can pick up a safe Greymane for yourself instead of trying to fight for it. You can safely ban out the Johanna without worrying too much. And yeah, you can just set up for some nice things using the first picks that you have and using the 3 picks that you get before the 3rd ban.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see what these teams are going to go for in this draft. I mean, I think because I've not seen that much of Heroes Lounge Division 6 and 7, so I don't know quite what the meta is like in terms of macro heroes. Do people play Samuro, for example, in these Rare Cup divisions?
Hmm?
Do people play Samuro? Is that something that could get picked up?
No, people are actually playing quite safe, especially in the higher echelons of playing, which are the things that we are looking at right now. But there are some potential funny picks from the teams. I have seen a team focus on picking Whitemane, for example. I have seen a team go just for Kessler every single game, and that worked before they got banned out every single time. Um, so yeah, a lot of personal preference, but not wildly different from what the general meta that you might expect.
Fair enough. So it should make for some thoughtful drafting here. So, for everyone who just tuned in, you're watching Heroes Lounge Rare Cup. Rare Cup today. We are going through the whole bracket all day today, live on this channel and our sister channel Heroes Lounge 2, where currently, I believe, Facepalm Tacticians versus In Panic is still going on, and that is, last time I checked, that was 1-0 up to Facepalm Tacticians. So if we take a look at how that's playing out in the bracket so far today, we can see here Kwak-A-Mole versus Unleashed 1-1, which is what we're currently showing, and Facepalm Tacticians versus In Panic. Those two winners will go head to head, depending on who wins those. Coming up after this series on this channel, we have Just Cause versus Beehive. And on Heroes Lounge 2, we will have Vorhumund Erha versus Blitzwing for the other semi-final spots. And of course, stay tuned with this channel for the semi-finals and the grand final later today to see who will be crowned the Heroes Lounge Rare Cup champion.
Everyone seems to be in the lobby, but we did have a little bit of a pause request from one of the teams, which we are going to accept, I guess. And yeah, game number 3's attentions are definitely going high, and I don't know who even is a little bit more scared. I believe that the statement game that was game number 2 definitely put a little bit of a pick in the mindset of Unleashed, and they do need a moment to calm down and make sure that they are ready for the game number 3. Because that's another big thing in those big competitions. The tensions are running high, and the psychological side of the team is no less important than the draft and the in-game play.
Absolutely, there's a lot of psychology that goes into into kind of how the team's going to play today's matches. It's so, there's so much tension because it's the culmination of everything they've been working towards all season. And there's part of it that will make you think, well, we've got to try something different for this game. We've got to try and shake things up. But then there's another side that will be saying, actually, we've got to play this safe. Don't take any risks on our playoff day. Things have got, we've got to play solid. We've got to play smooth. How the teams deal with that is, the real test of their strategic thinking, and it's going to be really interesting to watch. So let's go straight into the draft in game number 3.
So you get the first pick, and therefore you ban. How would the team's bans change from them having to pick first versus them trying to pick in second?
Well, it depends on what the priorities are for these teams. Now, Greymane, we've seen a lot of, both of these teams have been really loving that Greymane in games 1 and 2 here. So I'd be surprised if we didn't see Greymane get picked or banned in the first, let's say, couple of rounds. I think the macro, though, is something that we have to be thinking about here on Alterac Pass. Now, that Dahaka on Towers was so impactful. Here on Alterac, it could be devastating. So potentially, Kwak-A-Mole may be thinking about banning that hacker as well.
Well, yeah, definitely. Greymane is actually the second most played hero of both teams, so I do suspect that he will get picked up on the first pick by Unleashed just to take it away from the opponents and just to take a thing that eScorp is super comfortable in as they are moving into the decider game of this series. Elioric ban into an Anduin ban, not a lot of adaptation seen so far between the teams, but it's usually the second ban where the teams are trying to switch it up and are trying to ban out the things that they personally found very annoying in the previous matches.
Yes, absolutely. So Greymane that we saw there on screen just now, 55% win rate in Division 6 and 7 for Greymane. So, a strong hero, and he's been prioritized in basically all the divisions of Heroes Lounge this season. Generally, a well-rounded hero that all divisions are valuing very highly, along with, the Joanna, the ETC, the Zul and stuff. Zul's fallen off a little bit, but we did see a Zul ban last game, of course, so...
Wait a second, that's an ETC ban. That's Unleashed saying that we want you to play Johanna. Or that's Unleashed saying we will first pick Johanna, try to stop us.
I assume they pick it. Well, let's find out, I guess. My gut feeling is that they will pick it, otherwise... No, they've gone for the Greymane, and they didn't want Greymane to get hard CC'd by that ETC when he goes in, or knocked back or anything like that. Greymane, so far, 100% win rate in this series, and eScorp's Greymane should be very interesting indeed. That does leave open that Joanna, as you were saying. But
And let me remind you that Johanna was the tank that Unleashed have actually won in game number 1. Hanzo picking up alongside the Johanna, taking it away from the draft of Unleashed.
yeah, so that could be an interesting pickup there for Kwak-A-Mole for Joanna. Anna Ming coming in response for Unleashed. Anna, again, a hero who's been prioritized across the divisions. This time picked up by Black Lotus. So not going for that Bloodlust that they could have gone for again, They could have just picked up Bloodlust right now with
Yeah, but
Black Lotus with the Greymane.
I don't think you want to pick up Rhaegar that early. You might want to bait out a ban from your opponents, which would be very nice because it opens up better things for you to pick up, such as the Garrosh, which we do see Kwak-A-Mole seeing through that, telling, we don't need to ban out your nerfed Bloodlust, we can just take away the Garrosh, which was very annoying to us in game number 2. And yeah, you definitely can leave Rhaegar to the later stages of the draft. The question is, are Kwak-A-Mole enough on top of it to just try and steal the Rhaegars themselves? Don't think that's going to be the case, but we might see another offlaner ban here, which... Nope, instead it's going to be the Lucio.
I like that for two reasons. One, the Lucio was really good in game number 2 there on Tomb of the Spider Queen. But the other reason is Anna's healing grenade does not work on shields, and Lucio's burst protection is in the form of a shield, and so that's a sort of pseudo counter, if you like, against Anna grenade. And that's one reason they banned, I think, the Lucio sound barrier against their Anna. Let's see what healer gets picked up, though, for Kwak-A-Mole, and it's going to be Malfurion, who we've not seen yet this series.
Oh, Malfurion is actually one of the healers that get picked up a lot in Division 7, and I'm honestly somewhat surprised that we did not see him yet, but he's decent, for both of his ultimates have been picked up over the weeks. The other healers that we do not see that much, but that is prominent in Division 7, is the Stukov, so that might get picked up later on. As of now, that's going to be a Dehaka and a Merdin for Unleashed.
That's that Dehaka again from Mariku. I have to say, if I was on the side of Kwak-A-Mole right now, I'd be a bit nervous because that was so important for them on the Towers of Doom, and this is a huge map. It's going to be a lot about the macro. It's going to be a lot about that split pushing and the split soaking that Dehaka can bring so much of. So they picked a global in response of Falstad to be played by Dizzy Dwarf.
Well, to be fair, Falstad might be quite a dizzy dwarf himself, flying too much, a lot of turbulence in the air, And Merdin is actually somewhat like Imperious, a Q that travels in a line, an ultimate that gives you HP, and definitely a stance that everyone can pile up on to just obliterate the targets that you find the pick.
Yeah, in a sense, I think that is true, and I think a lot in the late game, in particular, Mirrodin may be able to just engage hard on Mouth, and Greymane and Mingle follow up, and then that's the end of Mouth. There's not much he can do about it at that stage, particularly if there's the hacker also licking him in the rear. So I think that's something they've got to be mindful of. Obviously, there is a gust that comes out from the Dizzy Dwarf, as you've really pointed out. Dizzy because he's always bouncing up and down and is flying. It's not a very smooth ride that he gets. But I would feel travel sick. I'm feeling travel sick now, just having done it on my chair. So
Yeah, the main question in this game is, does the red team wear the red shirts? And if not, how will it work? Game number 3 is on your left right about now.
yes, it is indeed. And on the left in blue, we have Kwak-A-Mole with Bobhead Konyin on the Joanna, Dizzy Dwarf on that Falstad, Wave Mani on the Space Goat Irel, Herm on the Hanzo, and of course Doom Redcoat on the Malfurion.
And on the right, we have Greymane on Iscorp, Somber Evil playing as Murdin, Greygo on Limin, Araku playing as the Haka, and Black Lotus on Ana scaling into the grenade build. A block on the Murdin on Novel 1 is quite a little bit interesting to me. Can you explain the choices?
To be fair, the Mirrodin block is a very strong block in that you get 4 juicy block charges of 75 each. So it's going to make him somewhat indestructible to Hanzo AAs. Obviously, it doesn't really help him with any of the spell damage that's going to come out. But I think rather than taking Perfect Storm and stuff, it suggests to me he's going to just jump in, tank a lot of damage, and be able to survive having jumped in, which means he'll be able to engage pretty hard.
And in terms of offlanes, we do have Wave Mana versus Oracle up top, which is your expected offlane matchup. But on the bot lane, we do see Dizzy Dwarf rotating there quite quickly, and you can play Altrak as a 4-man rotation, which is an option that some teams prefer, or a 1-3-1, which is an option that some other teams prefer. And in this case, Dizzy Dwarf is going to play that second offlane.
Thank you, by the way, to Mabno, who just subscribed. We do appreciate the support here at Heroes Lounge. Helps us keep the organisation running smoothly. So thank you for that support. As both of these teams, as you say, go to pick up their camps as early as possible. So really good macro awareness, good camp timings here from these Rare Cup teams. And both of them will have it rolling mid.
There's not exactly a lot of things to pick up on the map, so you best pick up the things that are given to you as quickly as possible. Reko versus Dizzy Dwarf now, as Limin is actually put up top to lane against Wave Manai. Limin having a little bit of a better matchup into the URL than the Haka, I believe. And Iscorp is actually gonna move down and collect a cheeky kill on the Falstad.
I sadly missed that with the camera, but yet, yeah, absolutely a great rotation from Greymane to catch the Falstad there and secure themselves an early kill lead. And the question for Falstad now is, am I going to Z back to lane or am I going to walk? Because if I Z back to lane, I then don't have it to get to the objective because it's quite a long cooldown. And so instead they have Joanna walking down to secure that. So nice decision making there from the strategist. And
they on top of Wave Manai Unleashed, liking those offlane ganks and going with the second one of those. Iscorp diving in, the sleep hits a grenade as well, but Wave Manai will just be able to walk out. Not enough damage yet.
Not yet, no, but later on in the game, those sort of sleep ganks may become devastating. And I think Li Ming didn't quite get the volley off that she was hoping for onto the sleeping target. Once they get that a bit more smoothly up and running, that's going to be a real problem for Kwak-A-Mole.
Meanwhile, a point that unfortunately I believe both of us missed, but there was a counter-rotation from the side of Kwak-A-Mole as Herm and Doom Redcoat tried to gank the Haka in the offlane, which unfortunately was not successful. Second camp's gonna spawn in. It will spawn in for Unleashed quicker because they have taken the first camp quicker, and it will snowball a little bit before it runs out of control. But as of now, Kwak-A-Mole still willing to take down the camp, while Somber Evil and Iscorp will use the fact that they have the numbers advantage and just start the timer. 30 seconds on the clock, now being 25.
Yeah, it is, and it's counting down. Falstad and Tahaka both have globals ready to go to come in to arrive at this at any stage. Of course, the Falstad one can be interrupted by Tahaka, so in a sense, it's up to Tahaka when Falstad goes, unless Falstad sits fairly far back, which he's thinking of doing now. The Diddy Dwarf thinking about setting up, but it has been decapped, so no, they're not going to rotate just yet. And both teams are clearing mid, and we'll sit back, reset, 15 seconds left on the clock.
And I mean, Ultra Pass is not exactly a map that you need to cap the objective early. You don't have to go for it. But if you get it early, you will get it early and you will get a nice boost to your pushing power. Also, line up unnoticed by the Dihaka so far, and the camp is taken by Kwak-A-Mole, starting the timer for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Joanna steps up, trying to catch on to Anna here. They're thinking about going in. The Malfoots comes out. It does catch on to Anna. They could follow up, but they couldn't because of the zoning here from Muradin and Dahaka kind of shutting that door, not allowing most members of Kwak-A-Mole to come in and follow up. So, a little skirmish, a bit of damage traded, but
On the Hanzo, however, the drag could have been devastating here, but Araku, I assume, had it on cooldown.
Yeah, it seems so. And both teams will live with 5 members. Now, of course, because this camp has been done slightly faster again and again by Unleashed, this means they're going to be able to get themselves a 3rd camp, and the blue camp has only just respawned. Falstad, I don't know how many bribe stacks he's running at. Let's have a look. 2 so far, so he could go and bribe and cap the last one.
But you can go and try to gank the offlane instead. Unfortunately, Araku is on top of it, and you don't exactly have the mobility options to get over the mud quickly enough.
Now this camp is going to be a real problem for Kwak-A-Mole. They've got to decide what they do. Are they going to go and clear it? In which case, they potentially leave this objective undefended. As Greyman stepping up, there's only 15 seconds left on that clock. Once Greyman caps, they have to think about engaging this very soon. Irel steps up, stops it from being capped right now, but the camp is still rolling mid. Mouth throws out a bit of damage to it, but he's going to get punished by Muradin and Li Ming. Can Doom Redcoat survive? Yes, he can.
Well, I think that Hanzo and Joanna can interrupt for a long time, and I'm actually quite surprised that I don't see Triumvirate for the Li Ming, which is an option that Li Ming sometimes skill into on this map because it provides you with endless interrupts on the objective. However, the engage comes out, Iscorp jumps on top of Wave Manize, and the Haka will burrow and use his essence to regain some HP. The roots will be there, Sombrero falling quite low as well as the Irel. Ultimates are not up on the table for either of the sides. Araku actually falling quite a little bit too far into the enemy's team, and that will be our 2nd kill of the map.
1 kill apiece so far, and level 10's not far away. And by the way, the blue cap was pushing all the while. The Falstad had picked up with those bribes, and it's got nicely 2 towers here, or 1.5 at least, for Kwak-A-Mole.
And with that, the attention is split, and that does allow Kwak-A-Mole to start the timer back again. Less than 10 seconds now. 6-5. And that's going to be the first wave.
It is indeed. First one going to Kwak-A-Mole. And level 10s are in as well for them. They've got that Twilight Dream, the Blessed Shield, the Mighty Gust, the Dragon's Arrow, and the Ardent Defender.
And the Mighty Gust in particular is probably the huge thing that will decide a lot on this map, because that map features not only 1 but 2 bosses, either of which can get denied / kept secured by the Gust. Also is an interrupt, also is just very solid versus the engage comp that Unleashed are running. Speaking of engages, Firm falling quite low, but will not fall low enough. Iskor jumping out, eating the Dragon Arrow alongside Greygo. And this fight will end with no casualties.
Yes, but in a sense, the casualty was the Dahaka Brushlock, because he had to Zed in a panic to try to save potentially Greyman getting ganked. So Greyman, yes, survives, but Dahaka has to walk all the way back to that top lane, which took a pounding in the meantime from Irel and her cavalry.
For the Somber Evil, meanwhile, in the bot lane, eating a lot of damage and will actually die, bringing up a 2nd kill for Kwak-A-Mole as they are going to go back and secure the fort.
Really nice execution all round from Kwak-A-Mole so far. Really well played on this cavalry to kind of force the distraction. And I also love the way they're keeping people alive in that engage that comes out from Muradin, Anna, Li Ming, Greyman. It's you know, when Hanzo got jumped by Muradin, Greyman, you know, I thought, is he going to die? But he did survive in the end, and in fact they turned it around enough to use resources. In goes Mjodin though, wants to catch onto Mouth. Stormbolt doesn't quite hit onto Mouth. Dahaka walking in, Gust says no. Nano Boost means Nano Boost not going to get anything because the Gust was used. But Joanna steps up, thinking about going for an engage. Blessed Shield used, doesn't catch onto anybody though. Oh, the tongue on Irel. Now there's a lot of roots coming out. Silence onto Joanna there. She can't do any follow-up just now. Irel in the back line, causing a distraction. Wave Money, going to get Wave Money, they're forced away and won't be able to secure any more kills. No kills traded there despite a lot of resource commitments from both teams.
And that's Wave Money and the ultimate used by the teams. The only ones off cooldown are the Pest Bullet, the Wave of Force, and the Twilight Dream. Which is quite nice in case the second fight bursts out, but then again, it will not, because Unleashed are once again in a position where they can't win the fights. They are trying so hard, but unfortunately they just can't. Kwak-A-Mole building up that composition to stay alive, to ensure that they stay alive, and to get those macro advantages throughout the map, and so far the bet is totally paying off.
I'm slightly surprised, that they haven't managed to get those kills, because the Mjodin stuns have been good, the sleep's been good, the follow-up damage is there. It's just not quite fitting together just yet for them. But in comes Mjodin, wants to contest this boss. 12 versus 13 though, can they hold the line?
Orpheus moving for it, the Gust will be there, but Dahaka moving on top of the capture circle, saving the boss for Unleashed. Bob Hectonin falling quite low, as well as Wave and I. Bob Hectonin actually blown up, and that secures the boss for Unleashed. The Irel is dying as well, and now we know why it's called the Throw Pit.
We do indeed. Beautiful turnaround. 12 versus 13 there from Unleashed. And it looked like, all the cards were in the favor of Kwak-A-Mole. They had the Gust. They had the 13 advantage. And they'd gotten most of the boss down. And just in the nick of time, Dahaka gets on that point, using his Dark Swarm to just walk through people and then plants himself there. And that, obviously, Dahaka could live through a lot of that ensuing damage because a lot of resources were also used on Mjodin. Nice roots onto Mjodin though. Hanzo's jump interrupted by the Wave of Force. But no kill secured.
Will, of course, go down without doing too much destruction, not even being able to take down the fort. But let me introduce you to a concept called Denial Value. If that boss was taken by Kwak-A-Mole, they will potentially even get the keep there. They will definitely secure the objectives, get the timer running down low, but instead, it's Unleashed who are getting their timer down to 28 seconds and are finding themselves back in the map, even in the experience lead for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the boss also got them a chunk of XP as well. Don't forget that as they go in. That's the combo they were looking for onto Malfurion. Blown up, and Li Ming's reset. She wants to go for more here. But Kramen's got to start thinking about getting away. He had the nano boost on him as well. Bolstad trying to avoid the shenanigans. Guts everyone nicely except Li Ming. That should mean that Li Ming can get punished. But it doesn't. Li Ming thinking about turning around here as well.
And once again, Kwak-A-Mole leaving out the fight on slivers. Absolute slivers of HP by the skin of their teeth. And Unleashed, that's gonna be very tilting, not being able to kill your opponents. Seeing them run around on 100 HP away from the fight.
Yeah, so huge play so far from both of these teams, but I mean, it's again neck and neck on kills. This is like game one all over again. But look at the structural advantage here for Kwak-A-Mole. They're 1 kill down, and yet they're 3 forts up, and their camp is still pushing mid, by the way, that Grayman's now got to deal with, whilst Kwak-A-Mole can start to cap this. Lovely stun comes in from Mjodin though, and the orb from Ming catches onto Folstad.
And yes, Kwak-A-Mole definitely showing us how to snowball their advantage. The only thing that they got on this map the entire time is the first objective, and like 2 fights in which they got 1 kill in both of them. We do have Bob Hectonin, however, engaged on, but Johanna is not exactly the target to blow up. She falls quite low, but the Li Ming dies faster, and that, without the resets, the fight is a little bit jeopardized by Unleashed. Black Lotus will leave the match as Johanna is being traded for the Li Ming, Somber Evil backing out, and there's the pause.
We're going to go back to my beautiful face for a minute while we wait for some tech issues from these players. Yeah, I mean, so really interesting from really interesting fight there. 1 kill apiece, actually, Joanna for Li Ming. But of course, the objective has been counting down the whole time. And that's why that gust was used. Volstad was like, never mind this fight. Let's just secure the objective. Look, we're 1 kill apiece. We just gust them away. Secure this objective, which has got 3 seconds left on the clock right now. It probably will be picked up by Kwak-A-Mole. And given that they were 3 forts up, having secured 1 objective so far this game, it looks like they're going to have, again, another structural advantage. Depends. Of course, it's a lot harder to push keep than it is to push forts, but we will see, of course, what they make of that when we get back into this game, following a little bit of technical issues from the players. And I think we are more or less ready to go back in.
Yeah, I don't think Unleashed are able to take this objective, and they can't help but see that the pauses make you feel blue, which is quite sad. So let's see how the games will continue and how will Kwak-A-Mole snowball the second objective. They got so much from the first one, but unfortunately they have thrown most of it on the boss. Let's see what will the follow-up be on the second objective.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, there are still 2 camps available on the map. I don't think anyone will pick those up before the objective goes. So that should be interesting. By the way, Transparent rightly pointing out in the chat, if you're in the Heroes Lounge Discord, and by the way, if you're not in the Heroes Lounge Discord, why not? There is a clip archive channel, so if you see any good moments, definitely clip them today and drop them in the clip archive channel, and we may use them with no promises of anything at all.
Better yet, if you are in the Heroes Lounge Discord, just spam Peacock in general. Let's see how many of us are there watching the games.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure. I mean, don't spam that in the clip archive channel. But yeah, so we're just waiting for the game to get restarted. I'm just going to try and investigate that. But yeah, I mean, so far fairly neck and neck on kills. What do you think? What do you think is the secret ingredient so far for Kwak-A-Mole in their winning lead?
I think that's the fact that they absolutely understand what their opponent's playstyle is. They are a team about stunning down the target and going ham on it. And Kwak-A-Mole have made a very nice job of making sure that it's the tank that's getting engaged upon the target that can't die in the blow-up of the enemy's comp. And that does allow Kwak-A-Mole to execute their macro setups to distract the enemies from the places where they should be and just saving the targets that need HPs, keeping the carries in the backline, keeping them away from the engage. Because the one engage that we saw that worked wasn't the Malfurion. Somebody will try to jump in the backline and try to find a flank, but both his Q and the Rakkus Drak will miss there as the push is starting up on the top lane.
Yes, by the way, thank you to Tamiria Nephilim, who just subscribed with Twitch Prime. Thank you for supporting Heroes Lounge with a sub. So, yes, absolutely. I think the engage has been really strong here from Unleashed, but it's just not always enough to secure kills before somebody dies. Or even if it does, the problem they have right now is just a structural deficit. However, they have cleared this cavalry without it taking a single keep. So it's still, still 3 keeps up, and that means they're well and truly in this game, and they have even XP as well.
Well, that's a recipe for a comeback. And there is still a boss to be taken. Maybe Kwak-A-Mole will decide, that's the thing that we want to take. And the scenario repeats itself. However, yes, I do agree, the structural advantage is mounting, and in fact, that's the only type of advantage that you can't exactly go back in. You can destroy enemy structures, but you can't repair your own. We don't have an avatar in the game. And yeah, both teams are moving to the boss, and Unleashed are trying to start it. Let's see how this Hail Mary move will go.
I think they're not actually going to start it because they're so afraid of getting jumped on the bus, but they want to trap. They want to find, right now, Unleashed want to fight. They want to use that nice engage they've got from the Muradin and the follow-up combo with the sleep from Anna and stuff like that, which has been very important. But on the other hand, Kwak-A-Mole are not letting them.
Not give them the fight. Kwak-A-Mole are quite happy just running around the map, teasing the opponents with an opportunity of maybe you can take a fight, but no, we will just run around. Hit and run. You don't even hit the opponents, you just run away and you hit the enemy's structures because that's the thing that they can't repair. They keep in the bot lane taking damage, the mid lane being pushed out despite the camp being taken by Unleashed. And yeah, the Ukrainian side is a little bit stumped, a little bit stuffed out for options, and the windows are closing down with each passing second.
They still have a chance though. Level 19 apiece. Both teams neck and neck on the experience, and that means they can have equal fights and anything can still happen. Both teams have their camp available. I would like to see both of these teams go towards their camp and just pick it up at this stage. They don't need to posture so much about this objective, but I think Unleashed are keen to fight. They want to step up and just put a bit of pressure, maybe find a Stormball or a Sleep. And in the meantime, of course, Dahaka is always soaking. Now Irel goes to soak. Maybe this is the moment when Unleashed go to force that objective.
And comes a bribe from Dizzy Dwarf, bribing out 2 of those 3 units, taking out the 3rd one, and that does mean that all of the effort that Unleashed put into taking that camp, E-Scorp and Black Lotus, both the carry and the main healer, used to sit on it for a minute, countered by a cheeky dwarf with a cheeky bribe.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the XP totals, both the XP that Red Team has got from XP... Sorry, let's change topic because there's an engage, yeah.
See a missed hammer, unfortunately, and that will mean that the teams are not fighting just yet, but as engage comes out, Kwak-A-Mole are going in, which is not a thing that we see a lot, but the reason is apparent as Dizzy Dwarf is starting to connect with the keep down bot. Unfortunately, Unleashed see it and stop the attempts of the Cheeky Dwarf on a flying chicken.
Level 20 talents are in for both teams. It is the longer blessed shield for Joanna. That has just been nerfed, but it's still there. The wind tunnel from Falstad. This may be game deciding, but let's see what happens. In they go with the combo, but delete Malfurion immediately, and out comes the best shield response. So Ling Ming's down as well, 1 for 1 so far. Irel pops her absorb, but there's the wind tunnel holding them against the wall, but they can't really follow up. Mirrodin starting to chase and look for more.
Waveman in a little bit of a compromised position as he gets stunned down, but I think Irel will be able to get out of it. Araku might be finding a drag, but use it just on top of the Johanna, which is going to tilt you a little bit. And yeah, level 20 coming out from both sides. We do see the Rewind, we do see the Talrashi from the Ling, and the AoE attacks from the Greymane, which is quite interesting to me.
Yes, that is very interesting, the Tooth and Claw. So definitely expecting to dive in, start slashing people up. And I think the idea is that if they can just get 1 kill, then Li Ming will reset and start getting value. That's actually not what happened though. They got that mouth kill immediately. And Joanna's great blessed shield punished Li Ming in response. And they got the counter kill, so 1 for 1. But there's no healer here, so maybe they play a poke game. There's the stun onto Anna though, a little bit out of position. Oh, sorry, onto Hanzo. And Hanzo has been punished. They're going to go for Greymane instead in response. So again, 1 for 1. Lovely counter engage. And a tongue comes out onto Mirrodin. Don't Joanna.
Don't really need to win the fights, they just need to go even, they need to go equal, because their lanes are winning the fights for themselves. Speaking of the fights, there's another engage, Black Lotus being the target of Waveman Eye, and the healer is actually falling down. Doom Redcoat with this dwarf are now engaging on top of Araku, and the Dahaka will just be able to burrow down in time, dust it away from the team. Greygo. Zelimin is now back, the player that has turned many a game on that peak, but so far the Falstad gets blown up. However, that's a long fight and the teams are definitely willing to give it their all. Especially Kwak-A-Mole, because they do need to keep the enemies gummed up in the fight while the waves are destroying the structures.
And incredibly, it's still even on kills, even after that fracas in around that objective that lasted so long. Again and again, they trade kills. Mirrodin stepping up, trying to slow this objective. 6 seconds remaining. I don't know. Oh, the arrow! Just about dodged, but play of the game means Hanzo lands. Wants to start following up, but no, Mirrodin will step away with his life. 7 kills to 8 so far, but it's another objective, and this time, this could be devastating. It's a 20-minute cavalry. It's going to charge down. down the mid lane.
And once again, you present the options for Unleashed. You go and take a fight with us. Sure, we are having the waves to push down your structures. The bottom keep is down. The mid keep is not having any HP at all. And after we trade equally, you still need to go back and defend the waves, which is why we take the objective, which is when we take the objective, and with which we will take the structures down anyway.
Yeah, I think they need to take Unleashed need to take a fight now though, because left, like otherwise this cavalry is just going to push towards core. Right now, with still 40 armor on the core, I don't think that Kwak-A-Mole can end, but they're thinking about it. They go towards Muradin. He has been twilighted.
Keep alive, and there's a blast shield on everyone, and Greymane is already dead. Iscorp not there. Bob had Connie out of HP, but having a bunch of regain. Dragon Arrow threading the needle, as we sometimes call it. The cast the wind tunnel, however, Ana is dead already. Auraku not looking too great, and Sombreevil will not survive either. Greygo trying to get the kill on the Hanzo, gets the kill on the Hanzo, but that will be the last game of the series. As Kwak-A-Mole upset, in my opinion, their opponents and gets their 4th win in a row while casted by me.
Brilliant, brilliant performance from Kwak-A-Mole. The way they've executed this game, and you know it was close. The whole game, it was close on kills, on fights. And, you know, that boss steal from Unleash will go down as, you know, one of the great moments of this Rare Cup. And yet, it's Kwak-A-Mole who secures the win. Only 11 kills to 9, you know, 2 kill advantage. And yet, 6 structures still left standing at the end of the game. So they definitely played the map the best they could here, Kwak-A-Mole. Their map pick it was, and they have secured a very solid victory here on Ultrac Pass to take them through to the semi-finals of the Heroes Lounge Rare Cup. Phew, okay, that was intense.
That's the first series, Karis. Are you ready?
Yeah, exactly. That was just the first series. It's been
not even the series that we see as the most important, the most hype on the card, because our next quarterfinal, Just Cause versus Beehive, top 1 Division 7 versus top 1 Division 6, a 10-win team versus a 9-win team.
Absolutely. So we are going to take a 2-minute break before we get set up for the next game. But we don't go anywhere because we will be back very, very soon with the next game. As Josh says, Just Cause versus Beehive, playing for the next semi-final.